my wife and I were staying up at a renewal relaxation center up in the Cascades in Oregon. And very beautiful place. And there are people that come there on any given time. This particular evening was very interesting, very cool fall evening. And we had just gone to bed. And as we were in one of these little cabins that are about 500 yards from the main cabin, which is where all the staff worked at. And about 11:30 at night, we hear crushing and just trees snapping. And my wife gets up, and there's like no sound. You can hear the crickets chirping and everything. And what's really unique is that the sound we heard was about maybe 5 to 10 yards behind the cabin. And the family, there's a caretaker family there, their dogs were alerted to this, and the dogs were just absolutely going crazy. One of the animals in question was about a 40-pound pit bull terrier, which is nice, very nice, loving dog. And another one, I believe, was a greyhound or some dog of that caliber. They ran out there and came back in. The family in question that was next to us, they had about between 7 and 8 kids, I'm not sure. 2 oldest boys came out with firearms, and they saw this thing that was about 6 to 8 feet tall, rummaging through berries in a berry patch right behind us. My wife at the time was absolutely just freaked out. So they fired a couple warning shots, and it ran. They called down to the main cabin to get the camp people up there to escort us off this mountain, which is where a bunch of camps, little cabins are, and took us down to the main cabin and spent the night. My wife, at that time, my first wife, did not want to come out. Very scared, really taken back. The next morning, they had a Native American gentleman who was a very good tracker and a member of the volunteer fire department tracked this animal. They tracked it over a ridge, and they couldn't go any further because they were on horseback, and they couldn't go because the terrain got so rough. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, it's beautiful there, but you get so further up in the Cascades, and it becomes a problem. You know, the country is very rugged, and I'm an outdoors person. I'm a photographer. I do a lot of, I'm a railroad photographer. I have a love of railroads and trains, so I've been out a lot in the last 30 years, and I have never seen or heard anything like that until I actually experienced it for the first time. And to this day, I have not been back there, and this happened in the state of Oregon. We are planning to move back so I can attend school, but I really have no desire to go back in that particular pinpoint finite area of what happened. I still think about it on occasion, and it often makes me very interested to want to go back, but my common sense and my, if you want to call it, my outdoor smart says don't do it.
Was there any smell associated with this or anything?
You know, there was a strong, pungent smell that smelled like sulfur or rotten eggs. And we could smell that, very strong. And I'm the type of guy now that when I go out in the woods, especially now, I take some type of protection with me, a firearm, some type of rifle. I have been, close to a grizzly bear in Montana, and sometimes a little too close in my photography, which is not good. And I'm a believer. I really am. There's nothing like it until you absolutely just go through it. And, the other people that were there were definitely, in the same thinking mind as me about the situation. And you could tell when this animal leapt, you could hear it crashing through the bushes, and it ran pretty fast once the dogs and the 2 shots were fired in the air. And it got out of there pretty fast, but it left a very indelible mark on my first wife's mental psyche about it.
That's very understandable. A lot of times we are told things like that don't exist, but then once you see it for yourself, it can kind of mess you up for a little while.
Well, I grew up as a Boy Scout, through our church, and as my father told me before he passed away, he told me there's places in North America where no man has set foot in the last 200 years because we're not as much of an expeditionary type of society as we were back in the 1800s, where we would go into the most further reaches of the wilderness to seek our fortune or do our hunting or our trapping or however we wanted to set our lives up, because there was a movement to go west. And I think that now that we are all settled into our own little worlds in our cities, that people are not as eager to go out and explore like they used to. And so there has been I believe there's been some untamed wilderness that has not been touched for the last 150 to 200 years. And I've always thought that.
Did the trackers ever give you any kind of estimation of what they might have thought it was, or anything like that?
Well, the one gentleman, he came from an Indian tribe in Washington, and he told me, he says he called it Sasquatch, is what he told me. But he said they didn't get any further up the mountain until, because the country gets pretty rugged. And once you get that far up in the Cascade, there's, I don't know how far they went, but they called off the chase within about 4 hours, and they were back. And they didn't really want to talk about it, and the camp people who ran the place did not want to talk about it either, because it was just something they wanted to keep private, and I understand that. And this has lingered in my mind for the last 11 years or so, and so it's had this always in my head because of I've always was there and I went through and experienced it, but I get this. It's just a very interesting thought when you think about what you've gone through, what you've seen. That's about all I can offer at this time about that. It was just, but it did make an impression upon me very strongly.
And what year was that again?
Well, it's 2003.
2003. So evidently it was there just eating the berries and
right.
Try to get him a...
This was about 11 o'clock to 11:30 at night, so it's pretty dark. But we were fortunate to have a full moon there, and we could see everything. We had good twilight, and it was just you didn't need a flashlight to walk outside. You could have walked outside and seen everything you wanted to see and get out there. We were so high up in the Cascades.
Did you notice any tracks or anything the next morning, or?
Actually, we did. There was a set that was heading southeast towards the higher upper reaches of the mountain range. But I didn't go there. I was consoling my spouse at the time. But they came in and picked us up in this mountain main cabin, and that's the last I ever saw them. But I will never forget that day or things after that. But it just made a very strong impact on me.
Well, I have seen them as well, and once you see them, it is the first few times I've been around them several times. But the first time or two you're around them, it's just I don't know, it puts you in a state of shock, I guess, for a little while to really understand what's going on.
And I also think that are we a threat to them or are they a threat to us? As one person put it to me. And I've had this conversation with a professor at the Boise University of Idaho, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and he says you're running the nose with us. He researches this. He's a professor of anthropology, and I feel that these experiences are interesting, but sometimes they can be somewhat terrifying in the same breath.
Yes. Okay.
You don't know what you have, and they obviously don't know who you are, and if they think you're a threat, then they're going to do every action they can to protect themselves from you, wherever that may be. So it's just a very interesting situation that I was able to go through. And if anybody was to ask me that now, I would say it is real. I've seen it, smelt it, experienced it, and it was there.
Yeah, once you actually see one, there's no actually changing your mind about whether they exist or not.
Right, and I think that we're always skeptical, and I think that as human beings, or as the human race, we have to realize that sight is one thing, but the probability factor is there. We don't know what's out in the woods. I've been out in the woods many times, and I've heard things at night, sounds that I've heard that I could not explain. And I've been around quite a few animals and wildlife in the wilderness, and I can understand what they are, but some things I just can't understand because of some different sounds I've never heard before, and it was, sometimes it's a little unnerving.
Well, wouldn't you also tell me that there was another sighting or something that you had, or?
There's a state park about, I don't want to give this away to people I know where it's at, but it's close to there, and I was walking with my spouse after this happened on now this is a U.S. park we're talking about, state park, a state park, and we were with a group of people walking, and they had left us, and a park ranger and his assistant ended up joining us. They were leaving the area, and so they saw this too. And, they confirmed with me what they saw across the river there, or the creek, just on the side of the bank. There was this creature that was covered with dark hair, about 7 to 8 feet tall, looked like between 300 to 500 pounds. I don't know. I couldn't tell. It's about as good 70, 80 feet across the other side, right in the daylight. And the park ranger told us very kindly, he said, "You need to get out of here now. Don't run. Walk." And he unholstered his sidearm just to be safe, and then we pretty much got out of there pretty fast. And that was the end of that.
Now, when did this take place?
I beg your pardon?
I said, when did this sighting take place?
That was about 3 days after the one prior to that.
Oh, okay.
And so it really put a tough spot with my my spouse at the time. So I just, I don't know. It was a very interesting situation, all I can say. And I've never returned there, that area. It's been a long time since I've been up there. It's a beautiful place to go. If you go, I would say go with a group of people. Don't try to tread the woods by yourself, for you never know what you run into.
Well, now this one you guys seen with the park rangers, what was it doing?
It was actually looking like it was trying to get something out of the creek or the river there. It was like in a squat down position. It was reaching into the river. And the minute we saw it, the ranger was pretty well, he was within 50 feet of us on the trail. He took a look across the other side of the bank, and he quietly said, "We need to leave here." He was alerted, I guess, by a group of people, the earlier group of people we mentioned that saw this. We didn't see it till we got down into the off the trailhead down into where the trail goes under the falls. But I don't know. That was kind of good heads up on his part to tell us, hey, you need to leave this area and do it in an orderly fashion. So we did, and no other action happened or anything would happen to us.
Well, I've always thought that the park rangers probably knew about them. At least some of them, probably do.
Right.
Because I've talked to several park rangers, and some of them kind of, you can tell, know a little bit about them, but don't want to say nothing. And then some of the younger guys, they may not know or whatever, but
I think part of it is in fear of their job and their security of their employment, because you don't want somebody going around telling and scaring your, the campers and the people who patronize your parks away. And, I understand that. It's something that I'll never forget, obviously, and it's something that always has been, burned in the back of my mind. And it's something that's just there, and I try to forget about it, but sometimes it just doesn't want to go away.
Well, once you have experienced them, seems like every time you get out into the forest somewhere, you can't help but look.
Yeah, and and in my situation now, I'm always going to be looking for the signs and making sure where I go, because again, I like to go out in the woods, and I am remarried, and the lady I'm married to, she has never really gone camping, and I'm going to have to be her eyes, ears, and her protector when I go out there again and stuff. So I got to take the initiative and be, as they say, street smart or forest smart when I go do my camping and photography.
Right. Yeah, because I've heard tales of people being attacked and harassed by Bigfoot, but it's a rare tale, but it does seem to happen occasionally.
It does. It does, and I've read stories about that as well, and I totally believe in this stuff. As a Christian, I stake my livelihood on it as a person who's trying to be honest and is honest. And that's about all I can say about this at this point. There's not much more I can really elaborate on.
Well, I appreciate you telling your story, and you can tell that that it made some difference in your view on things, especially your first wife there. It really had an impact on her, seems like more so than you.
It did, and actually it was not really a very positive impact, and I still feel bad about it, but what happened, it happens, and I'm glad the people we were with helped us out, get through this out of that area. So,
one more thing, in the initial group, in your initial, with the Bigfoot that was picking the berries, initially how many people were roughly in that small group?
You mean when they shot at it,
yeah.
Our warning shots?
Yes.
There was 3 other people. And they hollered over to us and said, "Are you guys okay?" I said, "I'm fine." My wife said, "No, I'm not." And the key was when their big dogs came running back in the house and would not go back outside.
Yeah.
That was the one that really took me. I just said, "Wow, what's going on here?" And they're good enough to help us out and get us through that.
Well, now I've had hunting dogs around Bigfoot before. Well, actually, my first encounter with being around a Bigfoot was when I was hunting with my dad when I was a teenager, and the dogs are totally terrified.
Oh yes.
And these were skilled, trained hunting dogs, and they was terrified. And so when people tell the stories about how their dog's friendly with Bigfoot and all that, I have a hard time believing it because it's not been my experience.
Well, one of the gentlemen who fired a warning shot had a .270 rifle. The other one had a .300 Winchester mag. And so if something was going to happen, they would have stopped it pretty fast with those kind of rifles.
Yeah, that's some powerful weaponry.
Very powerful.
Well, anything else you would like to add?
You know, I just tell anybody who doesn't believe this stuff, if you're out in the woods, just look at your environment, know where you're at, and know who you're with. You're looking at you. So you're not totally taken by surprise. Anybody who's out there,
Be aware.
be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, I thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk to us and give us your report.
Well, I thank you for talking to me about this, because I've been wanting to tell it to somebody for a long time, and I've really shied away from it. And I think this is a good medium for that type of story to be told.
Yeah, I think it helps to talk about it sometime. I know when me and my dad encountered the one when I was a young, as a teenager, we didn't tell very many people about it. But as we told more about it, it seemed like it became easier to talk about the subject and what really, what happened. And it's good to get it out there. Maybe other people will come forward who has seen the same thing or was in that area at that time.
Right. Well, I appreciate your time for taking your busy time to talk with me about this too. I really appreciate that.
Well, I thank you. And if you anything else happens, or you think of more details, or you just need to talk or something, hit me up on Facebook or email me or something like that.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.